These videos that are circulating are impressive, where there's an encounter between a helicopter and a strange object. It blows me away. It's like you see something like an energy, right? It looks like suddenly it's falling and then suddenly it flies and then it moves to one side, then to the other. It's amazing what we're seeing in these images. Okay, I want you to look at the top corner. Yes, we're broadcasting live. By the way, go ahead and like, share, please help us out with that, and let's continue here. You see how it vibrates like it's alive, right? And I want to talk about this reaction because I also want to tell you about the testimonies that some military personnel, military pilots have given about this case. It's really crazy because it shows you how interesting and strange this world is. Yes, and right now we're going to see more other videos. Check this out because it's really crazy. Now, it's exciting even after so many years of watching so many videos. There are things you just become more convinced of. There are special cameras that can capture things that we often don't see. Yes, and they show not only how strange these cases can be, but also there are amazing testimonies that we're going to talk about right now. About one of them, about an encounter with beings that are, well, not human, right? That too? Well, this other video, here we are. Look at the left side. See, it already passed. It's just that it's fast. Let's see. There it goes. On the left side, the object is going to pass by. Wait a moment. There it is. Well, it's very fast. It's not that simple. Let's go to the next one. This is the object they're following. It has something underneath, kind of like a jellyfish, and that's how it moves. And that's a description that's often given by people who've seen this in the sea, but also in space. In fact, look, here comes someone, an astronomer, a person named El Canal de la Ruta Verde. A professional astronomer came at some point and told us about those jellyfish-like things that are seen in space. He said that seeing them in space in the atmosphere was quite common, but under contract here the astronomers, at least some observatories in Mexico, have contracts not to talk about the subject publicly. So he told me this, let's say off camera, right? And then that's another object. Do you remember this object that's like a star? Well, what happens? How does it look without the filter? Yeah, how does it look? It looks like a star, right? Well, how does it look without the filter, this kind of infrared one? Something like that, right? How does it look? Well, here it is, how it looks. This is the object. What kind of craziness is this? I mean, the object is flying like it's nothing over the sea in the shape of a star, like a piñata. Let's call it the Omni Piñata, right? You have to see how, I mean, what is this? I mean, obviously not. There's no way it has propulsion, right? It's conventional propulsion as we know it. No, because it didn't have propellers or engines or anything like that, right? I mean, let's see. It's amazing. That's really great because at least now we have an idea of what this star is like. But I want you to see what the movement looks like as captured by the cameras. This is from the US Armed Forces. I want you to see how the object moves, and right now it's going to appear on the screen. I mean, it's clearly moving intelligently in a straight line. At one point, something like smoke comes out of the object. Look right there. In that part, you can see what looks like smoke. Do you see it? There's a trail like smoke. Do you see it? Also, it moves with a really unusual agility, a very strange movement. What are these objects? Honestly, I don't know. And looking at it closely, well, this is the shape. Look, here is the image without any filter in broad daylight. Truly mind-blowing. Mind-blowing. Hey, go watch Ainos. Don't be mean because it's important. Share it. Help us out with that. Cheers. Edelson is coming in. Come on. What's going on? Let's go to the next video. Well, this is it. It's an image. It's a still photo from one of the drones, or from the drones, right? Like from the webcams. They set up webcams, right? But let's say this one was recorded. It was photographed in 2020. This one is fine, but that's just the photo. So, well, no, you can't really see much there. But anyway, let's get to the case I wanted to talk about today. Let me move here to the center of the camera. This is crazy considering what they've published today, because the Pentagon not only released 160 files, but they also say this is just the first phase of a whole lot more files to come. What do the FBI declassified documents report? They described an encounter they had with metallic craft capable of fantastic speeds. But the strangest thing is that in one of these cases, the crew members were present. The crew members are described as non-human individuals, about 1.2 meters tall, wearing suits and space helmets. They are not described exactly like the Greys, otherwise we'd call them that. They were wearing helmets. Helmets like the ones astronauts wear? Information comes up in an internal memorandum in October 1966 sent by J. Edgar Hoover, or rather, sent to him, right? To Hoover. It has now been released under the Executive Order on Government Transparency in the United States. May 2026 will go down in history as a moment, of transition to this, extraterrestrial reality. No, because we can't call it anything else now, right? I mean, what else do we call it? The files mention the recovery of remains from crashed ships made up, among other things, of alloys that until then, at least, were unknown, and metals that contain thousands of microspheres of 15 microns. Just imagine, it suggests it was manufactured beyond the industrial standards of the time. Right now we're already at 2 microns, I think. But until just a few years ago, 7 microns was the maximum you could reach, and that's it. Some countries manage it. For example, China can't get it below 7 microns. Taiwan, the United States, and if I'm not mistaken, I think it's the Netherlands, right? Very few countries are able to achieve this kind of technology right now. 2026, then 2000, which was 2019, 60, 166. More than half a century ago. It's like it was half a century ago. It was impossible to reach 15 microns. You simply couldn't see those kinds of microspheres. And we're at a historic turning point in the architecture of American intelligence. What for decades was relegated, let's say, to science fiction, the mystery is becoming clearer and clearer. That Edgar Hoover's office and other presidents have been seeing and close to these kinds of cases. The document not only validates the existence of craft with flight capabilities that defy physics, that defy even current technologies. There are some descriptions, obviously not a drawing, but for example, in this case, they couldn't capture anything, and it's a recent case. It's a case from 2024. Some cases are very recent. In the case of disappearance of this object, according to the description, this was in 2023, September 2023. A metallic bronze-colored object appears. It appears inside a United States military base. The testimonies, several testimonies, drew it this way. But the point here is that we're seeing how there are, things to supervise that are super strange. Keep in mind that there's also another factor here that hadn't been added to all these stories, which is the biological factor, and that's why I wanted to do this special today. We're talking about encounters now. The government is accepting it. The government is accepting this because these are official and declassified documents by the new government. So pay attention to the next point. They claim that the biological factor of these discoveries, one thing is to accept that there are apparently intelligent objects, metallic or of some formation or some alloy or some kind of light or whatever you want. No, that's one thing. Another thing is to accept that there are biological non-human intelligent entities. Call them extraterrestrials, non-human biological entities, or whatever interesting names they love to use, right? But for example, this curious star, right? The one we saw in this video, it's this one, right? And what about the biological factor? The report about short-statured beings from the 1960s would attract more attention over the years. The FBI claims that they panicked at the time since they say they frequently saw those objects, but not anymore though. They claim to have had a series of encounters and recovered materials that supposedly contained metallic microspheres, apparently something similar to a 15-micron chip that showed evidence of it. Also, the object is a very curious subject. Look, the object or objects showed evidence of micrometeorite impacts, suggesting that this had traveled through space. In other words, determining that the object, let's say, had been in space. That's also something absurdly interesting because, well, it's not the classic technology where you say it was something experimental. It's something that, well, according to them, at least they determined that it had been in space. Now, also within this, we're talking about the fact that there were biological materials, and this is confirmed. This and the topic of the microspheres and the topic of the beings. What I feel I should be doing at that moment is demanding to know what happened to those beings and demanding they send the photos. I mean, not just once, because obviously there will be photos and videos from the moment when the recordings were made. You've already opened Pandora's box, man. I mean, you've already revealed the mystery. Or what was the mystery? Well, now it's not a mystery anymore. Now it's government evidence and with documents literally from the governments and military personnel of that time. So then what are we talking about? And why not all at once? Well, just give the full statement. He doesn't give the full statement. And show us the videos, the photos, whatever is out there, right? And so let's start to understand this world and this reality a little more clearly, right? This would be the object we're seeing in that video. And then we saw this other one. Let's go to this one. This one is also amazing, isn't it? It looks like a kind of tic-tac, the famous tic-tacs. Remember how many times people have talked about the tic-tacs? Well, there they are. They have a kind of biological pattern. And I want to tell you about what he has said. His is perhaps one of the most interesting cases. Let me, there it is. There is the image. I mean, David Rush, for example, David Rush has been one of the key figures. Maybe, well, one of the most important among the former intelligence officers who have given the most information about non-humans. He claimed biological remains were recovered and crafts analyzed. What was said about him, which isn't true, what the Pentagon said when he appeared before Congress, when you can't lie under oath. There, the Pentagon said it wasn't true, that the documents weren't real. Now they're saying it's real and true, so what will they say now? Who will they fire? How will they handle it? Or will they just leave it as is? David Rush was right, and so were many others. But he, well, says that they threatened him, that his life was at risk. I hope now his life is no longer at risk with all this, right? Grosh! He not only claims that this existed, but that witnesses had been provided to him. Now he said that the non-human biological entities, he hadn't seen them directly himself. Even though he was one of the main people in charge of intelligence, specifically on this subject, on these phenomena, he claims that he interviewed 40 different witnesses on these matters, people who are alive right now and who revealed all of this that we're seeing now, all of this subject, all the objects, everything. If we notice, if we will be, let's see, let's make the image smaller to see if we can see it better, right? Let's try to see it better. Look, let's make it a little smaller, and I think it's clearer. The helicopter gets close to them because you remember this case, we talked to you about it here and we told you, hey, they're saying, right? I told you he was crazy, but I said, look, they're saying. Officers said that an object almost collided with a helicopter. Yes, no, well, you already know all the comments, right? There was a bit of everything, but here we are seeing it. This is the image they're talking about. Do you remember the objects in Pennsylvania? Those drones that showed up? Well, it was said, hey, one of those objects, a helicopter got close to it. Well, there it is. There's the object. And yes, it got close and it got pretty close, clearly. There's the object in the helicopter. And nothing happened. I'm not saying there's any risk, but clearly there is. There's nervousness because of these objects. One reason is that they're being exposed and showing themselves so much now, or could it be that they've always shown themselves? And simply, well, they used to tell us, no, that's not true, and that was it, the matter was over, right? Now, we have to talk about this case of a pilot, right? about a helicopter pilot, and I think it's also been one of the craziest cases we've had lately, right? Estamos hablando. Well, it's not the only one, right? Because there are already several pilots who have made comments. By the way, there's also the case of Rogelio Munoz. 2014, a captain who witnessed a spinning top-shaped object that approached his plane during an air show in Acapulco in that year, 2014. A sighting that, by the way, was recorded at that time. No, but I'm talking about what happened with Jack or Jake Barber. Do you remember Jake Barber? Also another person who has been threatened. I want to tell you about this man because this man's case. Jake gives a very interesting testimony because he was sent, the Pentagon sent him, and he has the recording, and we already published it a while ago. It's not the same. If you want, we can look for it right now. We can play it right now. The helicopter goes for a sphere and they take it away. And they said they used to send us for spheres like that all the time. They'd say there's a sphere in such and such place. Go get it. That's why. They didn't give a description, just that you had to go get it, take it from point A to point B, and you had to go. That's it. But in the very interesting description this man gives, we'll get to that in a moment. Look, we're talking about this Jack Brian Barber, and right now we're seeing the image of what the Pentagon shows with these objects that seem to float and are being followed by a helicopter and all that, right? Unlike Luis Elizondo or David Roche, Barber doesn't come from intelligence. He comes from being a pilot of a plane or a helicopter. He claims that a smooth oval-shaped object like a giant egg was captured by them several times, right? Let me quickly look for him here. I wasn't prepared. I mean, I didn't plan to talk about him, but I just remembered him now. And I think it's interesting for what we're discussing right now, isn't it? I mean, Jack Barber, we recently showed him here. There's a video of him and he speaks before the US Congress. And you know, well, they've sent us to retrieve spheres several times, right? Like a kind of spheres that you have to go get, take them from point A to point B. Look, here's the video, right? Let's see if we can play it. Around here these years, but it's about finishing the month. Then something comes up like a kind of one of, and what? So they go for the sphere. That's the tic tac. It's like the famous tic tac, right? And they tell him, take it from point A to point B. It's parked there. It's lying around. You have to go get it, right? Well, they go for it. Who gives the order? How do they find out that sphere is there? Who reports this to US authorities? Who says there's a sphere here, you need to get it? Who does that? How many similar spheres have landed in other countries and remain hidden? What's inside that sphere? Well, Jack Braver, who obviously was never given access to this, he claims that in this case, this sphere made all the, what do you call them? Let's say the others, not all of them. Let's do a quick recap here. And they made the others feel like an emotional connection with the object. So there was something there. It was like you felt something. There was an emotion that people felt, that the operators felt when they were taking the object and bringing it to the A. And if we go further back and start looking at what people have said, look, assuming all of this is like that, assuming this is real, everything we're seeing right now with all these cases, right? Which I think it is. So we'll have to start reviewing all these cases of, hey, well, the lady says, the gentleman says, I don't know who says that they were abducted. Because, I mean, logically, if it's already shown that they're here, then logically some people must have taken a ride with them, right? it catches my attention. So yes, I think so. I, I've been interested in this topic for years, and we've analyzed and investigated it. We had the chance to interview several abductees. It's just that not all of them let me record them. But at the time, we interviewed Haig, an engineer over in Baja California, and he wrote a book that's maybe very out there. You might think today that it's not true. You might think that he really doesn't care what others think. He says, I don't care if they believe me or not. I just put down what I experienced, what happened to me, and that's it. And honestly, we've been talking about everything with the gentleman, not just about the topic. We've been talking about everything. And what he says is really interesting, honestly. I mean, honestly, after getting to know him, you say, I do believe him, right? Even if it sounds really crazy. Uh-huh. For many things, you as a journalist, you go and interview someone and the testimony has a lot of validity, right? But if they mention strange things, it doesn't count anymore. We often have that attitude, and it's not right. Let's see. He told you the other day what happened, and you showed the report pointing out what the testimony says. I think at the very least, we have to be open to keep investigating, keep asking questions, and keep going to the witnesses and saying, let's see what happened. Tell me what happened and let people decide whether to believe it or not. But I think now more than ever, those voices need to be heard. People need to know those voices too, like that man Jack Barber, but also like Haig, right? A very sensible engineer, by the way, very involved at the time, I think, in the CFE matter, if I'm not mistaken. With an incredible story, very interesting, and a great personality outside of this topic, right? A very, very interesting man. I don't know, just look at how the gentleman is doing over there, but honestly, it would be worth picking up the conversation with him again. Honestly. What is this white tech? What is this sphere? What are these things, these identified objects, or whatever we want to call them? The description given by many of the, let's say, let's call them the supposed abductees. What they describe is that those objects on some occasions, not always, are described as living objects. It's a very strange description, but that's how they describe them. And in other cases, no, in other cases, it's simply like it's a metal object and that's it. I mean, whatever happens next is up to you. But in some cases, and especially this thing that appears in the helicopter, I remember it, let's say. That's why I wanted to mention it. I remember the case of Barber, and it seems like there are objects that aren't all the same, right? We can't categorize all the cases as the same thing. No, clearly they're not. I mean, clearly the objects are different, they have different characteristics, they behave differently. Some seem to be alive, some seem to behave in a more systematic way, like a kind of transportation, to put it another way, and others seem to play, right? They seem to be playing with the water, for example. Haven't you seen it? It's like it's playing with the water, just like you imagine. I picture it being handled by a child, like dad, splashing, playing around. I don't know. And it does it. It's like this is a game. There's intelligence there, and you can also see playfulness in it, can't you? I don't know, something more than that. And there are videos, and that's how we go further back. About those famous crop formations, there are old videos from earlier times where you can see little spheres like these moving over the crops, right? And they play around, and it also seems like they're going boom, 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 and they make their incredible shapes and they don't leave. And not all of them turn out nice, right? Not all of them are like, oh, what a beautiful structure. Sometimes it's more like a scribble. Aren't there people who are really good at drawing and boom, 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 in 3 seconds they make an amazing drawing, and then there are others like me who make a drawing and well, it doesn't turn out nice, right? It's all just scribbles there. So it kind of seems like they're smart but also playful, right? In that sense, let's move on to the comments. Tell us how you've been and how things are going. Thanks for joining us. Greetings to you and to Tenerife. How are things there? With all this stuff about the, what's it called again? About the objects and all that stuff that appears in the sky. I've been told Tenerife is a place, I don't know, where you can see interesting things, right? Over there? I don't know. What do you think about that? Greetings, Armando. How are you? I'm in Roda. How is Roda? Like a pastor in Mexico says, Francisco Israel. He saw an account of being out at sea when a flying saucer came up from the bottom of the ocean. A kind of blue beam from a friend of ours from over there, but she was in Baja California, sir. If I'm not mistaken, she also described a kind of a light that can be seen far away on the coast. You can see it far away at night. And it said that the light would come out like a beam and then many little lights would appear. I don't know if they were going down or up, but it was like they were coming out. And that's it. And when you see it, obviously you're amazed and ask and say, oh, did something happen? No, we don't know, right? Or something like that. I mean, later I ask her, let's see, can you tell me the story again? How does she remember it? But yes, well, actually, she goes to California, Southern California, California. That whole area is full of really tough, very interesting stories. And in fact, several of the ones reported by the Pentagon are stories from there, from that area. Over there near San Diego, but on the seaside, Tijuana, that whole area, right? Pepe says, he was wondering how you've been and where you'd gone. It looks like you've updated your account. I found you by chance. Greetings from New York. How have you been? Doi33. It's great that we've been connecting every day for I don't know how many years. Here we are live every day. Unfortunately, suddenly, I don't know, things happen. I don't know if it's the algorithm or what, and then suddenly we don't show up anymore, right? So I've told you many times, I depend on you. I depend on you sharing us, liking and all that, because if you don't, you just don't reach, you don't reach the community. So, well, I also depend on you not forgetting about me, right? We're here every day, obviously, talking about what's happening in the world. Greetings from New York. It's great that you're around here. Kuyate says, now he tells me, greetings. I want to tell you that I feel calmer and more understood because I saw two men at very close range here at the Galeras volcano in Pasto. He says, hey, tell us about it and send your testimony. We'll read it here. I think we should get back to the topic of testimonies, right? Because, well, yeah, in New York, it's really important that we bring that up. What happens in Bocatepe, for example? What's been happening in Bocatepe for years? I wish they would release more information about it, make more details available, and investigate it further. Because there is something very interesting happening in Bocatepe and in other volcanoes. Hello, how have you been, girl? All the way to Portugal, one of the favorite countries for the World Cup, right? Hello, girl, how have you been? Nicoli Franco? Hello there. Well, look, thank you so much for joining us for a little while. We'll continue. Well, we'll keep talking tonight. See you here. We'll keep chatting tonight at 8:30, 9 at night. We're here live, Astrid and I. And well, that's it. Here are some more updates from today. We keep you updated here every day. Well, we don't update by topic. At least today, there was a lot of information. It's the weekend. And here we've been. I've already been here for a couple of hours, 2, maybe 3 hours. I think I've been here going from one stream to the next. A big hug. Take care. Have an excellent weekend. And tonight we'll keep talking. We'll really get into it. Go into it at length. A hug. See you later.